Hello, 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 everyone. Hello, Patricia, Clara, Abobakar. Hello, WSA community, friends and family. Hello, everyone joining us today or watching this video on YouTube later on. I am super, super happy that we're hosting a third iX3 event so soon after the second one. And I am super happy that today I'm joined by Abobakar, Clara, and Patricia, who for the first time in iX3 history will be talking about the same topic. And today the topic is migration and inclusion. And regardless that it's Christmas and it's the end of the year, it is actually very important to talk about the topics that touch all of us and that are very, very important for the whole world. And touches everybody on this planet. So today we will hear how the insight led to inspiration and created impact for these three amazing WSA winners. And then we will talk about, the common themes, about what's their insight, about the challenges, about the benefits, about everything that is happening in their world of creating impact in migration-led or related startups. So without further ado, I would like to invite Abobakar to open this iX3 event with his amazing story of how he founded AILEM. Abobakar, please, the floor is yours. Yes, thank you.
Today I want to share my story, my journey from Afghanistan to Belgium and to creating AILEM. And first I want to talk about life in Afghanistan. I was born in Jalalabad, Afghanistan, and raised there. And life there for youngsters and children is like they cannot go outside, spend time outside their home because of kidnapping, insecurities, explosions, and so on. And there I got to experience extremism and terrorism firsthand. But however, life continued. And when I turned 12, my father left Afghanistan, and we never heard from him until a few months later. My father called my mother and talked to him and said he was now a refugee in a refugee camp in Belgium. And he was refugees from different countries such as Eritrea, Syria, Afghanistan, and other countries. And after 2 long years of bureaucracy and going from one office to another, me and my family finally got to get reunited with my father. And when we first arrived in Belgium, we thought that everything is gonna be okay. There's gonna be no problems anymore, and we have escaped extremism and violence. But however, that was not the reality. As a refugee family, we were living 7 people in one room, and it was really difficult to find a different home, a different apartment, because most of the people would not want to rent their houses to refugees because of financial situation and so on. And after a few months of my arrival in Belgium, I got to be admitted in a school where I was the only refugee and the only person who did not speak French. And it was really hard to find my spot and to find someone to talk to because they could not understand me. And I got to make only one friend and this friend was the only person who could speak English to me at the time. And then one day I was in the library of my school searching online when one of the teachers thought I was extremist, and he shared this idea with his colleagues and other teachers. And this was really like a time where I truly felt xenophobia and racism firsthand. And I was thinking that I had left Afghanistan because of terrorism, and now I'm regarded as one. And however, during this time, my other teachers got to be supportive of me and challenge the idea of the person who had made this objection. But things got to change, and I got to learn how to program from one of my friends in school, and it continued programming and learning online. And during this time, I got to be accepted to Boost, which is a part of King Baudouin Foundation, which helps youngsters in their education in Belgium and help them get connected to like-minded people in Belgium who want to pursue higher education. And thanks to Boost, I got admitted in United World College of the Atlantic, where I pursue the IB and studied 2 years there. At the Atlantic College, I got to meet another student who had similar idea of helping refugees and asylum seekers to learn the language of their new host countries. And with my experience and background in programming, as well as experience as a refugee, and her experience with helping refugees to learn a language, we came up with this simple idea to create a language app for refugees and asylum seekers, which is made by refugees and asylum seekers. And on the year of its creation, we got to win the Lighthouse Prize in our college. And this truly helped us to build our idea and up further. And after 2 years, we got to win the Charlemagne Youth Prize of Aachen, which is given by the European Parliament in Charlemagne Foundation. And during the prize ceremony, the Vice President of the European Parliament said the following about our work, and I'm quoting her now. She said that your work is essential in ensuring that everyone in Europe can access language education, and they need to build a better future for themselves and their families. And now I'm going to talk a little bit about the present moment. So far, we have impacted more than 8,000 people through our app and online services in order to help them learn the language of their new host country and get integrated in their new host country. And we have also impacted more than 1,200 refugees and asylum seekers in in-person events. And at the end, I want to leave you with 3 key messages. The first one is that, I started by sharing my story in Afghanistan. And the reason behind that is no one would leave their home in their hometown and country unless the home is mouth of a shark. And the idea that refugees and asylum seekers should go back to their country is very uneducated and ignorant of their situation. And secondly, I want everyone to find courage in themselves in order to understand the lives and journeys of refugees and asylum seekers, as refugees are more than just a group or a number. They are individuals who have journeys, stories in life that they want to share with others. And at the end, I want to say that we need to give opportunities to refugees and asylum seekers in order to help them grow in their new community. When I first arrived in Belgium, I was given the opportunity to learn, to study, to pursue a higher education. And now I'm studying physics in university. When my father first arrived to Europe, he was in Germany, and he wanted to travel to Belgium and seek asylum there, but he didn't have the resources to go there. So other refugees around him helped him to go to Belgium. And years later, I got to meet this refugee boy over summer a few months ago, who wanted to travel to Germany and be reunited with his family there, but he didn't have the resources to go there, and we got to help him. So I think we truly need to provide opportunities and support refugees and asylum seekers in order to help them be integrated in their new community. And with all this, I hope that we can work together to support refugees and asylum seekers worldwide, support them in their education, in their language learning process, and also integrating in their new community. And I want to say at the end that feel free to contact us if you're interested. And as AILEM, we are very open to collaboration. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Abobakar. This is a really, a story that touches the heart. And I really want to talk to you and ask you a few questions, but we will do that after we hear the presentations of the other 2 speakers today. So Patrizia, are you ready?
Migrants and migration and inclusion are meaningful things that keep me up at night and fill my day as the founder of a digital platform that serves the Mexican and Latino immigrant community in the United States and the immigrant community in Latin America. America's continent is a land of suffering, lack of opportunities, and danger for the migrants and their families. Migrating now is not a choice, but a need, and sometimes is hard to understand. The first time I heard about migration without knowing very well what it was about was when I was a little girl, and my mother told us stories about my grandfather, who had been a bracero, those workers who at the end of the last century went to work in the agricultural fields in the United States. But there was a subtle difference. They always returned to their home, to their land. Now, the story is very different. Millions of people displaced without the possibility of returning. At 70 years old, and despite living in the states with the highest migratory intensity in Mexico, Zacatecas, my perspectives never pointed towards the United States, but rather towards Mexico City. There, I became a journalist specialized in economic and finance. However, in 2006, the Jones Knight Fellowship gave me an opportunity that changed my life. I spent a year at Stanford University in California, and there I made two decisions that directly influenced the creation of Conexión Migrante. First, I took classes the whole year with Luis Fraga, a professor specialized in the Latino community in the United States, immigration and its political nuances. And second, I became personally involved with the Mexican community in the San Jose, California area. And there, I began to understand them, to listen them. I wrote the Conexión Migrante project on a couple of sheets of Word and returned to Mexico to work for a year with the BBC in Spanish and later as a publisher in a local newspaper in my hometown, and then in the same position in a newspaper in Mexico City. Since 2008, I have bought the Conexión Migrante domain, which I renew every year with the same question. Will I ever do it? In 2016, I decided to quit my job and start Conexión Migrantes project. Initially, with my journalistic mind, I thought that what the Mexican community in the United States needed was to reconnect with their places of origin, with their families. But everything began to transform on the same day of our founding, November 8, 2016, the day when Donald Trump was elected president of the United States. The real transformation began in the first days of January 2017, when Juan Manuel, a Mexican immigrant in California, sent us a great message. He had a son born in the United States and needed to register him as a Mexican citizen because they were thinking of coming back to Mexico, but nobody in the consulate or any other organization helped him. Our small team, only me and a junior journalist, was able to help him in a matter of minutes. His request inspired us to start writing articles and organizing basic information for the immigrant community on our website. 3 months later, an immigrant sent us a voice message. The man was illiterate, so he couldn't read our articles, but he sent us a voice message telling us he needed help. We decided to give him our phone number, and a few minutes later he called. He was afraid of being deported and needed advice. When we finished that call, we decided to put the newsroom phone number on our Facebook profile and in the webpage. And more people start calling. We have received thousands of calls, messages, and emails on a wide variety of topics. This means that we work daily to understand a wide spectrum of issues and create content that will help those migrants be informed as they make important life decisions. While we appreciate to have won grants and awards to bring visibility to our job, the most gratifying part of Conexión Migrante is receiving messages of thanks and well wishes from the community of migrants who use our content. Our commitment to the community is, if we don't know the answer, we search and solve it for the person who called and for the community as an informative article in Wikimigrante, our powerful search engine to find information about procedures, programs, new laws, and rights for the migrant community. With the telephone line and the messages on social networks, we began something that might seem common to us, but that we rarely develop: the ability to listen to others, to understand them, to be more empathetic with the community that urgently needs our help, not only in the region, but throughout the world. Understanding that migrating is a right and the most of the time is not planned but urgent will help us get closer to their needs and offer them quality information, but also support in the process. Through journalism, which is what we do best, we have worked hard to make visible the situation, problems, and challenges of the migrant community. Until now, more than 20 million people have been visiting our webpage, and more than 20,000 communications solved through our call center. Dolores Almaraz, Lolita. She is a Mexican immigrant who lives in Santa Ana, California. She found Conexión Migrante on Facebook and searched on our webpage about how to start an immigrant organization and created the Migrant Club Women Migrant in Progress. She is one of our most valuable allies we have because now we are friends and support each other. Doña Georgina is a Mexican mother who participates in a family reunification program to see his son again after 26 years of being apart. We listen to her and she trusts us to tell her story. They are only two women from the thousands we directly help in the most simple process as an ID or in the most difficult one, like to find your family lost in the desert. We are a community now. I truly believe that migration does not represent a crisis, but an opportunity. It is a phenomenon that will not stop and that we must learn to have more positive eyes. Diversity, inclusion, social cohesion with people who speak differently, who have different skin color than us, who eat different foods, who play different games, give us the opportunity to grow as a human beings and as a society. Our work started and grew thanks to the close relationship we have with the community. And we can build with this immigrant community this strong connection between the immigrants and their families. This exercise also allows us to grow as human beings and as professionals, prepare ourselves, develop empathy, patience, and fight every day so that immigrants are recognized, listened, and supported as they deserve. Listening is the key to doing good journalism and serving the community. This is my commitment and my passion in life.
Thank you, Patricia. What a great passion to have, and seeing all the people and families reunited and individuals that you're helping. That is really, really amazing work that you're doing. Thank you so much. I invite Clara to share her story, and then I will invite all of us to connect back and discuss.
Thank you, Odetta. I will start by sharing the story of Hugo. This is Hugo. He's a Speak co-founder, and he's the person who started this incredible journey. Hugo is Portuguese, and as many of us, he did migrate along his life, either to study, to work. He has been living in different countries. Despite his position is a little bit of a privileged position because he's a migrant who decided to migrate to study and to enhance his life and to have different experiences. Along these experiences, he realized that despite everything, he was still facing different challenges. He was not understanding other people, despite the language. He was not managing to integrate well into the society. And this is the moment when moving from a country to another and living far away from home, that he realized that even if there were some solution in place, there was still something missing that could enable people to connect and to really create social inclusion in their new home. So this is the moment in which he started believing in a project called Speak that changed the life of many people around the globe. One of these people is Fatima. Fatima is from Libya. She moved to Leiria, a small city outside Lisbon, and she moved there only with the husband and the daughter. When Fatima arrived, she didn't know anything about the Portuguese culture. She didn't know how to speak Portuguese, and she didn't have anyone else than the husband and the daughter to connect with. Fatima discovered Speak. She joined as a participant in a language group to start learning Portuguese, and she soon turned into a buddy to share his own language, Arabic, with the community to give back to the society. Through Speak, Fatima, she didn't only started learning Portuguese, but she also managed to create connection, to create her own community in the city, and she even found a partner for creating a small business in Leiria. This is Naki. Naki is from Togo. Naki arrived to Lisbon alone. He was lonely. He didn't know Portuguese. He didn't know anything about local culture. And that's the moment when he discovers Speak. Naki joined Speak as a participant as well. He started learning Portuguese. And soon as well as Fatima, he turned into a buddy to share French with locals. Nowadays, Naki is a local tourist guide, sharing his own culture with other people visiting the city of Lisbon. And at the same time, he created his social network in town, thanks to the experience to Speak. He even met the mother of his child on a language group at Speak. And this is me, Clara. I'm Italian, as well a migrant that moved to Portugal in October 2020. I decided to move to Portugal in order to start a new chapter because I was looking for a new fresh start. But when I arrived here, I also didn't have many friends. I didn't have my family with me, and I was also feeling a little bit lost. And as Hugo, despite I am a migrant who decided to migrate, I was living different challenges in getting to know the other, getting to know the culture, getting to understand what people was telling to me when I was walking in the streets and going to the shops. I started volunteering for Speak. I was a buddy of Italian. I participated in language group to learn Portuguese. And thanks to this experience, nowadays, I call Portugal my new home. I have my friends here, I have my community, I have my local family, as I call it, and I met incredible people through the project. I even did a whole trip with one of my best friends that I got to know through a language group at Speak. These are the stories of people that has been passing through Speak, and this is what I call the magic that Speaks and is able to create in the communities where we are nowadays present. Speak is an impact venture that has as final goal the one to connect locals together with newcomers that are living in the same city through a cultural exchange experience. Our final aim is to give the possibility to newcomers, whether they are migrants because they have to be migrants or whether they're migrants because they want to be migrants, to have the chance to meet with locals, to face barriers together, and to give to the community whatever they can bring and they can add to their new city. In the last 10 years, we have been working on developing a technology and a methodology that nowadays enable us to reach anyone that is in need of Speak and that is in need of creating a social network in their new city and creating connection that are real connection based on friendship, loyalty, and that are really needed whenever you move to a new city. So nowadays, what happens is anyone can join Speak, whether to learn a new language and meet people, or either to share their own language and meet new people. So either to be a participant or to be a buddy. The idea is that throughout the experience, and thanks to our methodology that is a very informal methodology, people is not only able to start learning a new language, but is also able to meet people, eventually meet friends, and even answering to questions like, where can I buy good and cheap food in my new city? How can I register taxes in my new city? Which school should I choose for my children? So also answering to all these questions that whenever we're talking about integration and social inclusion are very important of a matter for newcomers in a new city. What makes Speak a bit different from other solutions and what is really empowering at Speak is the fact that for us, community, the people are the real change makers. The solution that we have been creating is a solution where, with the support of our technology and methodology, who is creating the change is the people. So newcomers, locals are the ones that are meeting, that are creating the change, and that are also in the long term, hopefully, creating a new perspective towards migrants. We are trying to go over those stereotypes that are out there towards migrants. We're also trying to fight the fact of believing that migrants cannot bring anything to our cultures and our city. So the idea is really to create this connection, a safe space where everybody feels as equal and where everybody can really and truly share who they are and what they can bring to society. Up to today, more than 80,000 people have been a speaker, so have been passed through the Speak experience. In 2017, we realized that there was a need of a bigger Speak. Speak was created in Portugal, but a solution like this one had to go over the borders of Portugal. And that's the moment when we started something called Take Speak to Your City, a replication model that nowadays enable anyone, either organization or individuals, to bring Speak to their city and to create more inclusive communities. And this is why today we are in more than 30 cities around the globe in more than 15 countries. And our final goal is really this one, to continue breaking barriers and to continue create the impact that we are creating. In these 10 years, we've been managing to create the impact that you can see on screen. We have been helping people not only in feeling part of their new society, in learning a new language, but also in making friends in their new town. The idea is to continue working with this, is to continue creating impact with these amazing people that you see on screen, all our Speak founders, and to create a world where we can fight stereotypes and where anyone can really feel at home, whether is really in their own country or in any new country around the globe. Thank you.
Thank you, Clara. What also a great presentation and great inspiration from what you're doing. I would like to invite all the speakers to turn on their cameras so that we can start our discussion part. And I can see that Clara is on the main screen, but let's see if that changes. So thank you so much for bringing, telling your stories today, but thank you so much for, more importantly, for actually, taking action and making the impact happen. I think that, from Abobakar to Patricia to Clara, we have such a huge representation of reasons why people migrate. War, economic things, and then seeking for opportunities. And they are all reasons that contribute to a huge migration that affects over 3% of the world population today. And I mean, it's really interesting to hear from your perspective, what are you doing in terms of including locals? Because from what I can see and from what I could hear is that, it's very important to work with the migrant communities. It's all about building the community. It's all about making the connections and making them feel welcome. But that doesn't happen without the locals. So it would be very interesting if you could also share a little bit more about how do you involve locals, what is the situation, and how are you changing the perceptions of the local people. Abobakar, maybe in your case, that is quite a very important aspect because of what we're hearing in the news lately. Can you share a little bit more about the locals?
Yeah, I think it's extremely important that the locals get to participate in welcoming migrants in their new community and help them in integration in their new society. Like, for example, in our platform, we bring the locals and migrants together so they can, for example, learn together online by playing games and chatting with each other in that manner. And when, for example, a refugee or a migrant arrives to a new country or a new city, they know no one, they don't know, maybe if they might not know the culture. So it's extremely important that local people participate in welcoming the migrants in their new community.
And I guess, like we've heard in 2023, sorry, a lot of the stories, especially in Europe, what is happening with refugees that are escaping war. How are you inviting the locals? Like, is there any resistance? What are your, how does it work for you to actually invite the locals to be part of AILEM?
Yeah, so what we do is we, for example, conduct cultural events in the local communities, and we invite both locals and refugees and asylum seekers to come together, share about their culture, share about their journeys, stories, and as well as their language, so they can learn from each other, and and to also like overcome this barrier of xenophobia, which can be created by the lack of education. So that's how we do it in AILEM, to actually conduct these events in person to educate the local community and migrants.
And who is the typical local community that you would go to? And also, can you tell me like how many countries is AILEM active in?
So in terms of geography, we have worked with local communities in Bangladesh, in Malawi, in the UK, in Belgium, and also in the Netherlands, where we invite local communities to come to, let's say, a refugee or asylum seeker center, where they can get in contact with refugees and asylum seekers. And we're also looking to expand to different regions where we can find partnerships to work with the locals.
Okay. Clara, what about you? It seems that like you explained a little bit about tour guides and kind of like creating these sort of community circles. How is it integrating the locals into Speak?
I think that locals for us are quite fundamental. Without locals, probably our solution wouldn't exist, right? Because at the core is really the connection in between locals and newcomers. I think that this comes from the part of the risk that sometimes migrants have, and also that I have been feeling a bit when moving to a new country, is that you always end up connecting with similars to you, right? So you end up connecting with Italians for me, and then it's sort of a segregation within the culture that you're getting into, and then you never get out of your comfort zone. That's a little bit what we would like to break at Speak, and that's why for us locals are very important. The idea is to invite locals to come to be buddy, to share their own culture and to share their own language together with newcomers, so that they give visibility and they share what they know. That is, like, they don't have to be teacher, they don't have to be professor. We give them a methodology, but then the real part is to truly share what they are, what it is to live in this country. And then this process of having an informal methodology, then it's also a constant exchange, because what happens in our session is, okay, I'm a buddy, I can share what we do in Italy during the holiday time. But then, of course, I will have the participants on the other side saying, oh, but you know that in my country we do this and that and that. So we create this space for sharing and being open and creating this safe space where there's no prejudice and barrier, and so that also the locals can understand better the other perspective, can understand, oh, but then, or maybe they can even discover, oh, eventually this is really similar in between us, so there's a point in common that I didn't know about. So that's a little bit where the locals are important to us and how they combine together with the newcomers in our experience.
And typically, who are the locals who join? Because I've been in Norway, I am from Lithuania, and what I've seen is a lot that, like once you have your close circle, for example, as a immigrant to Norway, like I couldn't find Norwegian friends because they are all very happy with their own close circles. And the same what I see in Lithuania, you are the people who you went to school with, who you grew up with, you went to work. So it's kind of like difficult to even find time to make that space in to welcome these new connections. So who do you see as typical locals joining Speak?
I have to say that the locals that have been joining at Speak usually are either young people that are, eager and curious to get to know what is out there. Maybe they didn't have the chance to get out there yet. Or on the other side is people that maybe is already grown and had been having different experiences, and themselves they've been a migrant in another country, and somehow they see that there's a difficulty out there for those that are living in their country nowadays, and so they want to give back or create this space for other people and help them breaking the barriers that themselves they had to leave when they were in another country. So these are definitely the first locals that spontaneously, I would say, come to us nowadays.
Patricia, how locals, whether it's the US citizens or Mexicans, are important for what you do, for your connection, making the connections?
Well, today is the International Day of Migrants, and we are celebrating for that. But I think Mexico is living a very big challenge. Usually, Mexico was a country to cross and arrive to the US. And we are still a crossing country, but a lot of people is now trying to go to North. And many of these people is staying in Mexico. And this is a big challenge because we are not used to receive immigrants in Mexico, and the xenophobia and all these wrong speech about immigrants is affecting the people is trying to arrive to the United States. Then next year, we are preparing a big project to talk with the people, to talk with the citizens, to explain them why migration is not about new, why migration is a natural phenomenon, why the people speaks differently, maybe with a different accent, maybe they used to eat different things, and we need to receive that persons. Then it's a big challenge for us because I don't want to repeat the story that in the US, that is now a very hostile ambient to the immigrant community. And we are not seeing the future, the needs that we have, the economic growing that it's occurs when migration is staying in a place. Then we have a big challenge now, that it's how to talk with our communities here and explain them that migration is not about new, it's a good news. And we work a lot with nonprofit organizations who help immigrants to try to be close to them, but to try to bring new knowledge to the team to understand the phenomenon with every country, because every country has different motivations to move. Then we need to explain why these people is migrating and what is really happening now in the country.
It's actually very interesting because Mexico has been the migrant country, and all of a sudden you have immigrants. And you would assume or hope that, as people have wanted to be in the US for so long, and as I don't know, how many families in Mexico actually have migrant members of a family, like relatives. But you would expect that, a country who was seeking migration would be welcoming to immigrants. But that's not really what I'm hearing.
No, I always say we have a short memory because most of the Mexican has relatives in the United States, and we forgot the time where they migrate to the US, and we are not eager to receive people who speaks differently, who looks differently to us. Then we have a big work to do next years, because we need to explain, maybe not the people in my age, but the young people, the kids, what migration means and why migration is a process and is not bad or good. It's a process that some people need to do, not only for economic reasons, but for security reasons now.
Absolutely, and it's such a huge work to be done. Could you comment on the change, like let's say in the last 5 years? What is the change that you're seeing, whether in society or in politics, towards the topics of migration? And Patricia, maybe you can start.
Wow, it's a lot of changes, but they are not good for the immigrants. In the last 5 years, the immigration laws in the United States and in Mexico are more strong, are more difficult for the people. I always say that the politicians don't see the problem for real. They talk about things that is not possible to do in the real world. They are talking for we need to have a migration with order, with plans, and migrating is not a planning. It's something that we have to do because we can lose our lives. And they are not understanding that. Then it's very sad, because not only in the government, in the society, if you see the public talking, migration is bad, is poverty, is problems, is delinquency, but we never talk about the good things migration provoke. Then I see a very difficult time for migration, a very difficult time for many people who are running to other countries without a government, without politicians who really understand the phenomena and who really try to make a journey more easy for these people. As always, I think they make a very difficult time for the people. All the immigrants who are coming from South America to Mexico to the US are living very dangerous situation because the governments don't do anything but put more strong laws or more strong barriers for these persons.
Thank you for sharing the opinion. And I mean, you know, migration is as old as humanity. Like, we all came from Africa, right? The Homo sapiens 70,000 years ago. So we wouldn't really be in different countries if it wasn't for migration. So it is a very interesting phenomenon that, along with globalization, which is supposed to connect the world, we're actually seeing like stricter prohibitions for the natural migration to happen. Abobakar, you're probably, you know, you've been experiencing what is migration and, you know, your whole life. How do you see changing? Like, what changes do you see in the society, politics, even, you know, I don't know, even the business world, even the people that you're connecting through AILEM?
Yeah, to talk about from a policy perspective, I think in the past 5 years, especially in Europe, it went from welcoming migrants to treating migrants and refugees differently based on their origins, to now in Europe they're passing a law which will, you know, deport and send refugees and asylum seekers and migrants to a third party country. So from a policy perspective, it's getting really stricter on refugees and asylum seekers. However, the local communities, the people actually who are not part of like the government or the politics, seem to be more welcoming to our refugees and asylum seekers. By looking at the recent changes in the world, in new wars getting started, in getting informed thanks to globalization about what's happening around the world, which makes the people want to welcome migrants and refugees more and more. However, the policies are acting on the opposite way.
And it's all related to where you're born, right? Either you were lucky to get a lucky passport, or you're unlucky, and then like the reasons why you are migrating are hard enough, and then we get the receiving countries making it more difficult, which I guess from the country's perspective, when there are few cases, it's easy to deal with, but then the numbers increase, then it becomes more difficult to increase. Clara, what do you see happening in Portugal? Because I know that Portugal actually quite oppositely had a very welcoming visa for welcoming people to come and live in Lisbon in Portugal.
Yeah, well, I come from a country where I think we have been living the migration crisis in the last 10 years. Like, I don't see many changes in Italy in between the last 5 years, instead of just the increasing number of people that is trying to cross the Mediterranean Sea to get to a new place. And as Abobakar said, in Europe, this is a little bit the trend that we have been living in the last years. One thing that I also agree with is different treatment that you have depending on the country that you're coming from. But this is true. Like, as far as I know, didn't study this much in depth, because this was already active when I moved to Portugal. It is true that there were very good conditions for visa for those who could bring something economically to the country, right? So this was something that was requested because a lot of people was also migrating from Portugal. I know a lot of young people like me that did their studies here, but they moved out from the country to look for a new opportunity outside, and that they are local. So this thing created an open position, let's say, for good migrants somehow, the ones that they were highly requested. But then when you look at all the others that are in real need of having a safe place where to stay here, this is where the difficulties are coming in, like long processes, bureaucracy, and even the different conditions of, if you're coming from a European country where there's a war, maybe you have a right and a faster process that someone else that maybe has been living here for years and couldn't go home for 5, 6, 7 years because they don't have documents yet to stay here regularly. So this is a little bit what we've been experiencing in the last years here. On one side, the opening to new people, on the other as well, maybe something that is a little bit hidden. This is the other part, right? The part that nobody really knows of what is going on, but it is very similar to many of the countries that are nowadays like the conditions that we have in Europe nowadays, actually.
And what is a hope in the migrant communities that you're serving? Because, of course, as politics and the border crossing becomes more stringent, people still live lives, and they want to live their lives to the fullest and the best that they can. What is what does your community, is migration a topic? How important that topic is, or the communities would rather focus on the life in the place that they are at right now? Clara, maybe let's continue with you.
Yeah, I think migration for me is quite a daily topic, also within my own circle, because I consider myself a migrant, and I always advocate for this. And also working with a project like this one, it's very difficult to detach from the topic on a daily basis. What I see is that what our community is, our, let's call it, beneficiary user, that is very grateful for, and what is also changing in society nowadays is that civil society and startups and all these innovation and impact world is really changing a little bit. The mindset is more and more focused on taking care of these, advocating for these, and all of us together are really going towards changing systemically the mindset of people altogether. And this is something that our community is really grateful for, and it is supporting us in doing it. So sharing what we're doing, sharing with their friends, sharing with the community at home. So creating a bigger message altogether, so that in the end, eventually in the future, we could really fight the stereotypes that is out there, and eventually changing policies later on.
That is a very beautiful way to kind of, do it bottom up and actually influence, because a lot of politics probably are also related to the public's opinion, right? Which with big article news and kind of social media really not uniting, but like, forgot the word, splitting our opinions. So yeah, it's a very nice approach to actually, address this issue from the bottom up. Patricia, what is the hope within your communities that you're serving? What is, keeping them going forward? Is it the topic of migration, or it's life, or?
Now migration is a big issue in Mexico and the United States. And I was thinking, if civil society doesn't work with them, then nobody will do it. Then the organizations that are helping immigrants are very strong and are trying to solve many problems that we have now. But our perspective for the next year is not very good, because we have presidential election in Mexico and presidential election in the US. And migration is always a moderate topic. It's always a topic where they can play in favor of immigrants or against the immigrants. Then it will be a lot of political tension next year for these presidential elections. But I think our challenge is with civil society, how we can explain the phenomena. That is the first part. But the other part is, how can we help immigrants with information to make better decisions? I always say that immigrants never have time to think. They are always walking and trying to solve in the root all the problems. They don't have time to stay 1 or 2 days trying to get the best information to make the best decision. We are working with the community, with the immigrant community in that way, because I believe if they have the right information, the quality information they need, they will make better decisions, and maybe they will migrate with less danger than now.
Thank you, Patricia. Abobakar, what about the communities that you're touching? What is their hope for the future?
Yeah, I think one thing that gives them hope is that they survive, for example, the harsh condition back home, and they survive the harsh journey to arriving to a host country. They are there. And the second thing that gives them hope is the local communities, in the humanity of the local community that's gonna work with them and welcome them, even though if the policies goes against them, this aspect of humanity will help them integrate in their new community and give them hope to continue.
And in addition to language, are you also helping people to integrate in terms of work or housing, or are you mostly focused on language?
So we are mostly focused on refugees and asylum seekers who are in the early stage of arriving to a new country, and where they will learn the basics of language and culture of their host countries by reading different stories and learning from stories between refugees. Our lessons are basically based on stories of a refugee boy and a local girl, and they get to know each other's culture. And that's how we want to add this aspect of culture, which will help refugees and asylum seekers get integrated.
Clara, that is also similar to what you're doing in terms of creating space for not just the language, but actually the integration to happen culturally as well.
Yeah, our final idea is the fact that language barrier is one of the biggest one, and that is connected to many other challenges that migrants, newcomers are living when they get to a new city. So the idea of using language is because is effectively a barrier, but we use it only as a mean of communication. So it's not, let's say, our final product. The final product is connecting people using the language. And then this will eventually result in people supporting each other. So we don't provide the solution of housing, employment, and so on, but just the fact of connecting, networking, that's exactly what can really create the difference when you're in a new city. And then when the connection is created, the real change is happening at the end.
I'm not sure if I'm the only one noticing it, but I feel that Speak and ILM should actually talk and potentially help each other.
Definitely.
It's really sad that an hour is coming to an end, but I have one question from myself and one question from the audience. Bryce Nyong has asked, how are you helping or encouraging migrants to support their home countries to solve their own problems? So how are you helping or encouraging migrants to support their home countries to solve their own problems? That's one question. And then a question from me, if you had a magic wand and you could change something that is related to what you do, what would that be? Patrizia. Sorry.
I was just thinking, but... I think, about the first one, the migrants who are running out from their countries, they cannot do almost anything for their countries. They are trying to save their lives. Then it's very difficult to understand that, but they are living and they are not watching back if something is wrong. They know what is what things are wrong in their countries. I think they are trying to survive, and maybe in the middle time, maybe they can do something. But it's very important that immigrants never forget their families. If their families stay in their countries, they will never leave them. Then it's a very strong connection we find in Conexión Migrante, for example, with the Mexican that are in the US and the families here in Mexico. It's a very strong connection, and they make decisions together. Then for the first question, and for the second one, if I have a wish, is that the immigration laws were more logical with the real people than with the politicians meeting and trying to do something they don't know. I will relax the frontiers, and I will have a lot of centers to help immigrants to have time and think and stop a little bit to make better decisions.
Thank you, Patrizia. Clara, do you want to go next?
I think it's very difficult to wish something different than this. This, I think, is the biggest wish of all of us, right? Because as well, if it was for me, and I also take it very personally, because as said, I'm from a country where a lot of people doesn't make it or is sent back or stayed in centers for very long time. So if I could change something, is exactly this one, like the perspective that we have on politics, and also the general wave that is happening right now in Europe, that if it's continuing this way, even us from civil society and organization will have less and less support. And this is a very important support that, as civil society and startup, we must have to continue working and creating the change. And so this is definitely the biggest wish. In terms of the other question, I think that for us, I agree a bit with Patricia, of course, but I also think that once someone is new to a country and it leaves the transformation on his own skin, probably bringing his own story to other people that is living back home might bring a little bit of hope in we can make it. Of course, with different tools, because each country is different, each politically talking, each government is different, but we might altogether change the mindset of different people and create something better altogether, even if from far away.
Thank you, Clara. Abobakar, it's your turn.
Yeah, so regarding the first question, I think the way we help migrants is we provide them with knowledge and education of, for example, how to fill in documents in their new country, how to, for example, ask for help at the doctors or in the metro, or how to interact with others in a restaurant and so on, so they can learn the culture of their host country. And I think we believe once migrants and refugees are self-sufficient, they can help their families back home, either by joining them in their host country, or either by providing them financial resources if possible, if they eventually get to, for example, have a job. And regarding the magic wand question, I think, yeah, the main thing is that changing the policies is really important, changing the policies and discrimination towards refugees and asylum seekers and migrants. And hopefully we will have better people in charge who can understand the difficulties of migrants.
Thank you so much, Abobakar, and thank you, everyone for joining me today. And it was a great conversation. I think I am leaving with so much broader perspective on migrants, but also with so much more hope that, due to solutions like yours, equipping the migrants with the right set of tools, with the right set of knowledge, the right language, to actually be self-sufficient, as Abobakar, you said, and your example of learning to code and creating something that has been, awarded in the country where people were hostile against you at the beginning, is a perfect example to lead with. And I really, really hope that your initiatives and your startups will go far and beyond, and that you can work together to actually create more impact and amplify that impact that you are already doing. So thank you very much for doing what you're doing, for being here today. Wish you all a nice festive period. And I will be definitely following your journeys on social media across everywhere. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice Christmas and 2024.
Thank you. Bye.